Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article titled, Young Americans are so miserable dating, they're taking themselves off the market. Why? And guys, this article is pretty much talking about the current state of things. This article is only a few months old, how more and more young people essentially are going their own way. And it goes both ways, actually, both men in one direction and young women in the other direction. And is at all a surprise at all, given the state of things, how things are in today's world, in our, like I like to call, Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0 world. You got young guys are walking away because pretty much so many of the young gals nowadays are, let's be honest, a-holes, behave like a-holes. Nowadays, you pretty much can't say anything without being considered to be offensive. In the era of M2, and I'm speaking in code here, M2, you know what I'm talking about here. A guy can say or do anything, and pretty much he is all of a sudden, could be brought up on charges or lose his job for some misinterpretation of something, or some girl had a bad day, can accuse him of this, and this. So more and more guys are walking away. They're not because they can't say anything about being offensive. Guys are walking away because simply more and more gals nowadays are acting so masculine because they've been conditioned by the feminist movement to embrace their masculine side. Young guys are turned off because no young guy wants to be out with a gal or relationship with a gal that acts like a dude. Or so many young gals nowadays are so empowered and everything's a social justice mess or something like that. You know, the social justice warriors out there. So you got a lot of guys out there are realizing it's not worth it. And a lot of these young guys have watched their older brothers, men in their family, been burned through divorce or bad situations like that. And they're like, it's not worth it. And you got young gals walking away for a lot of reasons. One in particular, because so many young guys nowadays are so soft that are essentially, pardon my French, pussies, and they've been conditioned to be feminine. And again, where does that come from? The feminist movement. So you got so many gals saying, where are the real men out there? And you got guys saying, where are the women? It's a big mess out there. And where does a lot of that come from? Can a lot of you guys, what movement has brought about the current state of things nowadays? If you guys are thinking the feminist movement, give yourself a big pat on the back. So anyhow, guys, this article is going to be talking about the current state of things, and it doesn't surprise me at all. Oh, and yes, I forgot to mention the hookup culture. That's a whole other thing. So, and by the way, this article is written by a woman, and she writes for this magazine called Evie, and Evie tends to be, some of the writers write articles to show that some of them are somewhat allied with us. I don't know if I would call it allied, I hope so, but definitely they see eye to eye with a lot of things I talk about as other guys on other channels, so it's good to use some of their material from time to time to show you there's some gals out there that are conservative, traditional point of view, and it gives some hope. Anyhow, it starts off, it says, it's rare these days for us to find common ground, but as the world of relationships dramatically changes in our country, we're all in agreement dating seriously sucks right now. The 2020s have capitulated America into a new humanity as we've navigated a largely digital world in the midst of the COVID-19 lockdowns, an evolution into virtual reality and the metaverse, and the growth of non-traditional trends in dating and marriage. In our increasingly divided culture, we're losing the ability to connect in a meaningful and profound way, changing the trajectory of society. We're fundamentally changing the nature of relationships day by day in the name of progress. But it turns out Americans don't feel that we're progressing at all. Yeah, we're progressing right down the gutter. That's where I think we're progressing. A Pew Research poll released in late 2020 found that nearly half of Americans say dating has gotten harder. In the last 10 years, especially thanks to the rise of the Me Too era and online dating. Even worse, nearly 70% say that our dating lives are not going well, and 75% of us think that it's becoming somewhat or very difficult to find someone to date in the first place. Yikes. There you go. And I gotta tell you guys, what I've observed, and people I've talked to that have children and all that, they say that just the kids nowadays just aren't interested in that. When I was growing up in high school, that was the number one thing on a boy's mind. Dating and hooking up. I mean, we didn't give a crap about dating. It was to get to the point where you are hooking up. You all know what I mean by this. But nowadays, it's like, nobody cares. It's interesting. And I stick to that is because of all these different things rolled into one. Dating relationships can be a source of heartache, but they're also a source of unparalleled joy. Strong relationships and marriages have the capacity to transform society. So it's imperative we restore them to importance in America. And that's another thing, guys, which she's going to get into about marriage. More and more people nowadays aren't getting married, and I'm fine with that given the state of things. You hear me talk about all the time, I think you're nuts to get married nowadays in the 2020s. There are exceptions, but generally speaking, it's like guys are out of their mind. The deck is stacked against us. With the courts, the family courts, all that. Not to mention the second that ring is on the finger, people behave differently. It's just not you want to do relationships, knock yourself out. But the second you put that ring on the finger, get the government involved, you got a problem. But there was a time and place, things weren't as bad as they are nowadays. And so, in my opinion, for you traditional guys out there that are relationship guys, if you can find a gal nowadays that actually has some old-fashioned traditional standards, and she hasn't been corrupted by the current state of things as they are nowadays, and you go and you screen her for a long time to see what she's really like, what her family's like, and how she is with, you see eye to eye in terms of life goals, and you're both good with money, and all these different things I talk about all the time, and you protect yourself through prenups and doing it right, then and only then maybe, okay, knock yourself out, get married, but be careful. And that would be better for a structured society. But being in an era where I think it could be widespread in terms of like the good qualities I talk about, if you're going to do it, that's very small percentage nowadays. So it's no surprise, less people are getting married and more people are getting divorced. It goes on, so why are we so miserable? You would think we live in the most connected time in all of human history. Never before we had the capacity to communicate with our significant other or potential dating partners 24/7, 365 a year through advanced technology. It seems, however, that the more connected we appear to be as society, the more isolated we have become. Yeah, I 100% agree with that, because people spend all freaking day. You ever go out and you see people sitting around maybe doing at a park or the beach or something like that? Do you think they're kicking back and enjoying the scenery of a beautiful park or at the beach, the ocean? No, what they're doing is they're looking down, liking pictures on social media. I guarantee it's something with social media, right? There's people all around they could talk to and engage with. They're not talking, they're all sitting around looking down their damn phones. See, you know what I'm talking about? So yeah, you're all connected, but nobody's talking to each other. It's amazing to me. With school, work, and dating happening primarily online throughout the past 2 years, Generation Z and Millennials have been dramatically affected in particular. Depression has skyrocketed from 8.5% before the pandemic to nearly 28% in late March and early April 2020, according to a survey of roughly 1,400 American adults published in the Journal of JAMA Network Open, as cited in a Vox piece of the COVID-19 pandemic. 8.5% to 28%, that's a massive, huge number in general, let alone huge jump in the numbers there. A recent survey on mental health for Generation Z found that young adults were two to three times more likely than other generations to report thinking about planning or attempting to off themselves in the 12-month period spanning late 2019 to late 2020. Those are alarming numbers. See, the more connected we are through technology, actually, the more isolated we are. I agree with this. Though there are many factors impacting mental health in America, it's easy to see how the rise of dating apps and online dating plays a part. We replace meaningful long-term relationships with a visual marketplace of swiping left and right to determine our purely escort attraction to someone. We swap marriage with the hookup culture, dinner dates with FaceTime, and commitment with the casual. While we crave human interaction and intentional love, we're settling for a stimulated version of what we deserve. Yeah, welcome to today's world. And don't get me started on the hookup culture. Again, back to hookup culture with open relationships, open marriages. How many videos have you guys watched me do? For you guys have been watching me for a while, at least a year or more, how many videos have you seen me cover? Either on this channel or my other channel, They Did What, which you should check out for crazy stories. How many times have you heard me do these stories on these open marriages, open relationships? When these wives think it's a great idea to talk to her husband doing an open marriage, because basically she's bored. She wants to get some D, and she probably already has some D lined up, convinces the poor sucker to go along with this. She starts dating, hooking up with other dudes, and eventually he meets a gal, and it breaks apart the whole marriage. Not that it wasn't broken already. And by the way, anytime guys, a woman brings up, for your relationship guys, brings up, let's have an open marriage, or just tries to plant the seeds of that idea, it's over. Walk away. But because articles are written about this, like in things like Cosmo or whatever, or anywhere else, convincing women this is a great idea to be free and empowered, they're thinking this is a good idea, and they try these things out, and it turns things into an even bigger mess. Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0. The era of political correctness and cancel culture dictating society sure isn't helping either. The previously mentioned Pew Research poll on dating satisfaction has found that people are unsure how to behave on dates in the 2020s, especially thanks to the M2 movement. Translation, they don't know what the hell to say because nowadays, generation offended, particularly the young crowd, guys are like, what the hell do I talk about? That's not offensive to this young social justice warrior I'm unfortunately just found myself on a date with. Men no longer know how to be masculine. Women don't know what to expect from them, and anything can theoretically be deemed as offensive. So we stopped trying in the first place. No wonder we're miserable. Right. Young men grow up in households where more and more single-parent households are out there, and generally the boys are raised by the moms, and the moms, to their credit, I hope, or at least most, are trying their best to be good moms, provide for the boys, love the boys, raise them to be good people. Problem is, boys need a masculine presence to help guide them. Okay? And if it isn't the dad, it's a strong grandpa, uncle, older brother, some role model. But they don't have that. And then they go to school, and generally the teachers are women, and you get my point. And so you have less masculine young men out there, and they don't know how to act. And it turns the women off, so they don't want to date them. And the boys are unsure of themselves, and I know they're not happy, in spite that they may claim that they may be happy or feeling free and empowered or some bull. You talk to some young generation Z-tards, as I call them, and they actually think that they are top of the world. Nope. It says here, marriage is becoming a thing of the past. In the midst of our misery, we've seen perhaps the most important cultural institution start to disappear, marriage. Yeah, well, you know what? That institution has destroyed itself. And again, back to the pendulum swinging too far on the other side, where now men are screwed and second-class citizens in the eyes of the court, so more and more guys are saying, not getting married. So I'm not shedding a tear over this report until things go back to a much more balanced, fair environment. It says here, the CDC recently released the findings of a century-long report on marriage in America, conducted from 1918 to 2018. They discovered that by 2018, marriage rates in our nation dropped to a historic low. In fact, the 2018 marriage rate in America was the lowest since 1867. The first year the federal government began recording rates in the first place. Imagine that. Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0. Hookup culture, open relationships, open marriages, men not acting like men, women not acting like women, everything's offensive. I can go on. Rather than get married, young adults are choosing instead to date in perpetuity, forgetting that the purpose of dating is to determine whether or not someone would be a good long-term partner in marriage. Dating has become the end goal instead of the interview for the job, and as a result, our culture has embraced a half-in, half-out attitude towards relationships, rather than truly committing themselves to their significant other. It says here, non-traditional dating is on the rise. With the institution of marriage on the decline, our culture has made way for the new era of dating, with a whole new set of values. Values, huh? With sex viewed more casually, more and more Americans are watching PORN. In fact, 28,258 people had their eyes on PORN every second, and 1 in 5 mobile searches on the internet are for PORN. For teenagers, the impact of the industry is even more profound. The average age of exposure to PORN for males in America is just 12 years old, and 57% of teens search for that at least once per month. Well, guess what? Back in my day, there was no internet, and so every young boy, definitely by 12 years old, not saying it was me, but I'm saying most young boys by 12 years old were doing what they could to get their hands on some magazines, or they were watching, like, on cable TV, there was the channels that was scrambled. You go on channel 99 or whatever it was, and you could see the scrambled version of a boob here or an ass cheek here, or some activity going on. That's how back in the day we got it. If we could somehow get a hold of the magazines and watch the scrambled PORN adult channel. I'm sure many of you guys are above the age of 40 know what I'm talking about here. How many of you guys smuggled in those types of magazines into your house without getting notice from your parents? Put them in your backpack or put them down the pant leg of your jeans. I'm sure many of you guys know the tricks. Nowadays, it's a one click away. All this is happening in spite of the well-documented data providing PORN's link to S-word dysfunction, marital problems, and mental health struggles. Well, young guys are going to this because they don't want to date anybody, given the environment right now. Cultural and lifestyle leaders pushed for an end to intentional monogamous relationships and usher in polyamory as a glamorous alternative to tradition, encouraging the next generation to date multiple people at once. I got no problem dating multiple people at once as a screening process for something better, or just having some fun for a while. I say be careful, and as I've gotten older, well, let me tell you, let's just say not the big deal once was many, many moons ago. But in the idea about in terms of dating multiple people in an actual relationship, that's nuts to me. It's like if you're actually going to get in a relationship with someone, why would you want others? Like you have the time for that or the budget. If you're a high value guy, you're a guy on your grind and purpose, do you actually have time to have multiple girlfriends? And I don't mean hookups. I'm talking about multiple girlfriends that you spend serious time with. No, you're busy. You're busy achieving your goals. You don't have time for that shit. And this is, of course, if you're a relationship guy. It says TikTok videos are filled with videos making polyamory the norm, and throuples win legal battles to have their names all included on birth certificates. Think this is a tiny minority of Americans? Think again. 1 in 9 Americans say they've already been in a polyamorous relationship, and 1 in 6 say they'd like to try one. Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0. Again, for you relationship guys, one girlfriend I'm sure is more than enough, let alone having multiple girlfriends. The future of dating. You think the push for S-word anarchy, polyamory, and PORN will make Americans feel empowered to do just about whatever they like, liberated from the chains of relationship norms from generations past. Instead, though, young adults are looking around at the state of affairs in our country and decide to not even put themselves out there to begin with. There you go. Thus, the more young Americans just walking away from the whole thing altogether. It's a big freaking mess. In fact, half of single adult Americans and a majority of single women aren't on the dating market at all. It seems the constant push for progressive culture isn't exactly progressing us, but regressing us to a heartbreaking reality that we'd rather live in loneliness than risk the emptiness modern dating culture is sure to deliver. Said it very well, and I'm sure this is why many people out there, and obviously including a lot of you guys who watch this channel, are doing just that. You got your other reasons, of course. Everybody watching this channel has their own reason why they're... I know I got a lot of guys who watch me that are married, and I got a lot of guys that are relationship guys, but I also got guys here that they're done. They've been down that path. They're done. They're focusing on themselves. So I got a wide audience here, and every one of you, don't blame you at all. Do what you want to do. Makes you happy. Just be careful. But the guys especially that have walked away completely, no one can blame you given the environment we're in. She says, in closing thoughts, as free-thinking young women, perhaps we owe it, this is a woman who's writing this, perhaps we owe it to just to ourselves, but to our country, to tell the truth about the shortcomings of modern dating culture and point us in a new direction. The next generation deserves to know the truth about what they deserve and are worthy of receiving, nothing less than intentional true love. Well, that sounds great and all, and maybe that will happen one day, but right now it's a big freaking mess, and that's why many reasons why many dudes are just like, nah, no thanks. And it isn't just young guys, it's also women as well, because they say it's a big mess, and I explained all that in the beginning. Got men acting like women, and a bunch of sensitive crybabies, and there's a whole just mess out. There's more good reasons for young guys to walk away than women, but there is a fair point with the whole feminine guys out there. And so this is why I talk about all these things I do all the time to make people aware of these type of things. And I'm trying to help young guys embrace the masculine man that's in there deep down so they can start being men again. Not to get girls and date, but obviously to be stronger and be able to have the kind of life they want to have, etc., etc. And if one day they choose and can meet a gal that has some good values, they can navigate that relationship in the right direction, be the type of guy she can trust to lead, and she'll be feminine and soft and be kind of like the gals that you all want. But that is a long time coming. So every video I do my part to help out. Anyway, guys, interesting article there, definitely reflecting the times. And like I said before, you relationship guys, you want relationships, knock yourself up. As I always say, just be careful. Just be careful with taking your time to get to know the girl, screening her properly, all that, And for the other guys who have walked away, no one can blame you in the least. Do what you want. Do what makes you happy. So it's a mess right now, and I don't see things changing anytime soon. But anyhow, guys, that'd be a good one to go over there, the current state of things. Be sure to comment down below. Let me just think about this. And guys, if you have a really good story you'd like to share with me on this channel, email me, strongsuccessfulmail@gmail.com. This also includes really good articles. You find some really good articles that I think would definitely be helpful. If you'd like me to go over it, email it to me, and just give me some time, and if it's a good one, I'll definitely cover it later on down the road, because I get bombarded with emails every day, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. I really do. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.